Right guys, so as you can see we are here for some AOR highlights here for the Mexican Grand Prix, the third from last round of the season, and once again it comes to you quite late. I think this race happened about a month ago now or something like that, so if my commentary is a bit rusty then you know why, but what you can see at the moment is a lap that I did in practice with a few other league racers, and this lap was my best lap that I did throughout the whole of practice, and it would have put me on pole easily in the actual thing. But as you'll see in a minute, I managed to bottle both my laps, so yeah, that's a bit of a shame really, as I wanted to get my second pole of the season. But this round, I really like the track. It's probably one of my favourite tracks on the game. I wouldn't say it's my favourite, but I seem to get on with it quite well. Never really had amazing results around here. I've only had one league race here before, and that was Reserves League where I came 4th, I think, and actually I've had a social here as well and I came 2nd in that one as well. But yeah, never really had the results around here, but my practice pace is looking pretty insane, and it was looking good for hopefully a win today if everything goes to plan. But all the practice I did was in the dry, so yeah, I hadn't prepared for the wet, and unfortunately the race was going to be wet, but I've always liked the wet conditions, so it wasn't really a massive shame. But my setup was fully for the dry as well, so we're going to have to wait and see how that goes here today. So you can see now in the actual qualifying session the conditions are a bit different, but I'm currently in 2nd with about 2 minutes left of qualifying here to go. So getting ready to start our lap now, so crossing the line, start the lap down the very long pit straight here, opening DRS as early as you can. We're in max fuel mix. You can see we've fueled up for 2 laps in case this lap doesn't go to plan, so we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But you can see my current time's at 15.3 when what I did in practice was at 14.7, so we've got a good 6/10 to find here, and if we can do that then we should be able to get on pole. Turn 1, 2 and 3 there was taken okay. We didn't really get the best exit, but it's not been a bad first sector, and you can see we're purple at the moment, although we are 100th down on what we did on our first lap, and those corners were a little bit scruffy. They weren't perfect, but as long as we can qualify in the top 3 or 4, from there you can win the race. You can't start outside the top 5 really on this game and fight for a win. It's pretty difficult to do that. You could do that on the old F1 games, but just with the dirty air and how the 2017 F1 cars are, you can't really do that on this game. You can see Synthetics taking 2nd place, and that's dropped us down to 3rd at the moment, so we're a 10th up, but it's not really going to be the lap time I want to set. We need to be in the 14s really, and heading around the stadium section here into the final corner, shifting up into 5th gear, and across the line we set a 15.2 to go pole, but that's not a great time if I'm honest, and somehow we're on pole, and we're going to go again and try and improve. So let's see how it goes. Heading towards turn 1, you're going to brake at the 100-metre board, take as much curb there as possible, not really taking that too well, and we're going to get very greedy on that curb there, and we're going to cut the corner, and we've invalidated, and that means that we don't get another lap in, and Simo takes pole with a 15.1, and I know we could have been a good half a second quicker than what we were, so yeah, that's pretty annoying, but P2's good enough to fight for the win anyway, so at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. And you can see overfueling the car a bit in the wet here today, and you can see my setup that I'm running, taking the diff down to 50, but other than that not really making any changes to my dry setup here. And you can see at this moment I was contemplating whether to increase the wings up to 2.9 or leave it at 1.9. I think I left it at 1.9 from what I can remember. So you can see 50-70, and there is the rest of my setup. You can see it's pretty much a dry setup here, and 11 ballast, which is not recommended in the wet whatsoever. So yeah, I messed up in qualifying there. I should have changed it to 10, but I don't know why I left it at 11. I think I was just not really paying attention to what the weather was going to be in the race. But you can see 5 red lights now, and away we go. We get a decent launch off the line, but I knew we had to really get into the slipstream of Simo if we want to fight for the lead into turn number 1 here. So getting into the slipstream of him, he's going to cover the inside line, we're going to go to the outside here. Both of us got a pretty good start compared to the cars behind. We're going to try and go around the outside of Simo here to take the lead, but you can see he pretty much has just shoved us off there, and yeah, that was certainly quite aggressive from him. It was a bit reminiscent of the 2015 Hamilton and Rosberg in Austin at turn 1 lap 1, in the way that he didn't really give me any space. I tried to outbrake him, but yeah, I'm not going to take him to the stewards or anything like that, because it's not really worth it. He'd only get probably like 5 penalty points or something like that, and yeah, it hasn't really. If I got damage or something, I probably would have taken him to the stewards, but it hasn't massively affected my race, so there's not really much point in doing that. But you can see at this stage we're just really trying to get used to how the car feels in these conditions, because I did no practice in the wet whatsoever. I think I did about 2 laps midweek on time trial in the wet, and that was about it, because to be honest I thought Mexico was probably going to be a dry race, but it's not a dry race here today, and you can see there's only 12 drivers in this race today. Once again, the numbers are not good in PS4 F1, which is pretty appalling, and hopefully in season 15 you're going to have more committed drivers who want to play the game. Obviously a lot of these drivers expected the game to be better, and it turns out it's not that great, and which is fair enough, but if you're going to commit to a league you may as well complete it. So hopefully in season 15 we'll have more committed drivers. But you can see in the slipstream here of Simo, we're going to try and attempt to move into turn 1. We're going to outbrake him this time, and we're going to go up the inside, and we're going to take the lead, and we hit the apex there pretty nicely, and you can see it's trying to do a few cutback lines here, but we're covering him off quite well here, and he's now going down the straight. No DRS of course in the wet conditions, and he's going to try and go around the outside, but we're going to brake just before the 100-meter board, and we're going to hold on to the lead there and try and slow him down a bit on the apex to try and get a bit of a gap here and try and get him to get worse traction. But yeah, now into the lead, so I didn't really expect to get up to grips with these conditions that quickly, to be honest, but we've managed to do it, and especially through this section with 11 ballast, it did feel like I was going to lose the car quite a bit, so just taking it nice and cautiously for the time being. And you can see my closest rival in the championship, Synthetics, in P3, so if Simo can stay in front of him, that will definitely be really good, as we are, of course, lap 2, we're in the lead, we're going purple at the moment, but the pace we're setting seems to be pretty good, and we're starting to extend the gap over the cars behind already, and you can see Synthetic is trying to challenge Simo for P2, and I know Synthetic's doing next season of AOR, so I expect him to be one of my closest rivals in that. And you can see a 31.3, already 1.3 seconds ahead of Simo already. So on to lap 11, nothing really happened in those 9 laps, and you can see we've extended the gap to about 4 seconds I believe, and it's now a 30.6, which is, yeah, definitely good pace. And you can see it's a 3.9 second gap to Simo, who's still in front of Synthetic at the moment, and I think it's RC Alonso, I might be wrong about that, but yeah, it's looking pretty comfortable for the time being. Although it looks easy, it's really not. You're trying to keep an eye on the gap, and you can see the differences between sectors. Like, for example, the car behind might be quicker in sector 1, where you might be quicker in sector 2, and then he might be quicker in sector 3, and you just need to manage the gap as best you can. You can see now moving on to lap 27, it's lap 17, and you can see we've got 51% rear tyre wear, and you can see I've locked up a bit there and actually going off the track, making my first mistake of the race. And we're going to be pitting, not this lap, but we're going to be pitting on the next lap, and I think the cars behind are probably going to pit on this lap to try and get an undercut, but I wanted to just manage my tyres and get that extra lap in, so it makes it less of a threat to my tyres at the end of the race. You can see Synthetic is now into second place, and RC Alonso's into third, and I don't know where Simo had gone. I think he just dropped down to fourth, or he made a mistake of some kind, but yeah, that's not good news for us really. We wanted Simo in second place, and we wanted to try and gain 10 points on Synthetic instead of 7, but it is what it is, and Synthetic's now into second place, and who knows if he can stay there or not, but the gap was about 8 or 9 seconds there, and we've definitely got the edge and pace in these conditions around this track, so it's looking pretty comfortable for us to take the win here today. But obviously who's going to be on the other 2 steps of the podium is uncontrollable for us, so just got to wait and see how that goes. But we're going to be pitting at the end of this lap now, so heading into the pits, and yeah, taking it pretty cautiously on the pit entry. We don't want to speed in the pits like I've done here once before in season 12 when I was just pushing too hard. And you can see pretty decent pit stop, 2.6 seconds. Going down the pit lane, saving fuel. I think the guys behind are probably going to have caught up quite a bit when, like, obviously they've got fresher tyres, they're going to get the undercut, but in this second stint we're going to have a lap's fresher extreme wet tyres than them, so towards the end of the race we may have better pace than them, so it should be pretty comfortable from here. And it's a comfortable one stop as well on the extreme wet tyres. Like, the tyre wear is not really an issue, so you can see the time their character set, he set a 29.7, which shows that the pace on the fresher tyres is a lot better. I think the gap's gone from about 8 seconds to about 6 or 5, so yeah, I'm going to have to try and extend that back up again, or just be cautious and maintain the gap. But Carrick's pace today has not been as good as it has been in the last few. I think he's been struggling in the wet, or just struggling around this track in general, and you can see now towards the end of lap 20 we set a 29.5, not the fastest lap of the race, but it's good pace, and that was my fastest time of the whole race, and the gap's now up to 6.2, so pretty much in the remaining 16 laps we're just going to have to maintain the gap and look after our tyres and just make sure we don't make any mistakes. You can see there the gap's now saying that it's 33 minutes 23 seconds 0.6, and now H Racing Green's left the session, and now all the names have disappeared on the leaderboard as well. And I thought at this stage I might be disconnecting or something, but it was just multiplayer being multiplayer really on this game. You can see the dots on the map as well have now gone to grey instead of white, so a lot of issues are occurring here. But now I have no idea who's in second and third, although I was pretty sure that it was Synthetic in second, but yeah, that's not ideal from Codemasters in any way, but yeah, you're getting used to these sort of things now with multiplayer. And recently there's been a new patch, but once again they haven't fixed the safety car or virtual safety car, which is quite annoying to be honest, because those two things will make the racing a whole lot more interesting to be honest. But you can see the gap 6.9 seconds, and now moving on to lap 29 you can see another issue here, because we got a McLaren of, I think it's B Colt in front, but you can see it says he's Clarkey, and then now we've got Force India of, I think it's Clay, who's disconnected, and you can see that says that that's Clarkey as well, even though none of them are Clarkey, and Clarkey's in a Williams. So yeah, great work from Codemasters on this esports ready game once again. But moving on to the last lap, because nothing really happened in the next few laps, and yeah, it was just maintaining the gap and driving around in first place. Once again it looked easy, but it's really not. You're just maintaining the gap, and you have to keep your concentration, which is quite difficult to do when you're out front. But we're going to head round the final corner to take 2 wins in a row, and we're going to extend the lead in the championship to something like 17 points or something like that. I have no idea, but we take the win. And yeah, that was not the most enjoyable race, but still very satisfying win in the end. And Synthetic took P2, RC Alonso in P3, and we are looking in such a good position here to take the championship in my rookie season with just 2 rounds remaining. Brazil, which I seem to get on pretty well with, or I seem to have in previous games, and Abu Dhabi, which I don't like at all. So if we can get the championship done by Brazil, that would be really, really good, because I don't really like Abu Dhabi. But thank you ever so much for watching. You can see I've won the race even though there are no names whatsoever on the leaderboard. But thank you very much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Goodbye.